Okay, so baka lang nabalitaan nyo, no, na of course, it's been said that after the Euros, they would resolve this case, di ba? They just had to wait for all of this to end. Of course, we're referring to the case of John Terry, yeah? And he has been found not guilty by the court, no, of racism because, of course, there had been evidence that supposedly proved otherwise. The video was said to be clear, and that's why people were not everyone was agreeing. I believe a lot of people were disagreeing, no, with the decision that was handed down. Kayo guys, this particular instance, did you think it was racism?
Let's ask the white boy here.
No.
Yo, Vanilla Ice.
That's racist, I'm charging. What's the Philippine law on racism? We've got video evidence, full evidence. There's no way you can not say that was racism. You look at my colour of my skin and judge me as vanilla. I'm not vanilla, I'm very spicy.
What?
Vanilla, it's an insulting thing. You're saying I'm a boring person.
But actually, if you come to think about it, calling someone vanilla would mean calling them like dark. Because if you look at vanilla beans, it's actually black.
Vanilla ice cream.
Now you're calling me cold-hearted as well. This is getting even worse. Defamation. I need a lawyer.
Well, kasi with what happened, for me, it's really a very subjective case.
Yes.
Wherein, okay, they ask lip readers to examine the evidence. I mean, even though that's a certified lip reader.
And it is commonplace in the Premiership,
Yes.
for example, for there to be lip readers. Diba?
And it's still subjective. Because it's still, it's up to you. You don't, you can't lip read all types of languages.
Oo naman.
So, one thing is, for me, it's the same scenario as with the Luis Suarez and Patrice Evra type. Wherein it was one word against the other, and now it's the same thing, but then they went several in a different direction. So I think the inconsistency was shown that I have no idea. Even though kumalat pa nga na that's why Rio Ferdinand wasn't part of the English squad because John Terry was there. So maybe it was bit leaning towards John Terry because he is English against Luis Suarez, who's actually from Uruguay. So
it's okay to be a racist if you're English.
No, because you're in England. So maybe the law was a bit biased towards the.
Although it's long been an issue, right? I mean, in the Premier League, and we've seen. Even in the Euros, diba? We've seen Sol Campbell warn English fans, diba? But although it's been said, and I read in an article recently at the close of the Euros that he actually had been proven wrong because the Euros started and ended with not so much incident on racism, and at least that article was saying that the hosts did a good job, both Poland and Ukraine. None of those scary scenarios that Sol Campbell was. There was a few, yes, of course. Croatia, I think, was fined by UEFA, right, for racism also, and Balotelli also at the start threatened to walk off the pitch. But, well, we didn't see that happen, of course.
The biggest inconsistency, though, seems to be that Croatia were fined for the racism, but then Nicholas Bentner was fined far more just for revealing a
Yes.
So you can really see
because of the sponsors of his,
so you can really see what the priorities of FIFA are in that.
Yes,
and football has always been, to a certain level, corrupt, which may be why there's a certain inconsistency, perhaps. On a personal level, though, I'm not sure I mean, allegedly what was said was he called, I think, Anton Ferdinand Chokais. Was it?
No,
that's a different thing.
Sorry.
So he John Terry called Anton Ferdinand a black something.
Yes.
I think.
Viewers can Google it. And
We'll leave it up to them. We leave it up to them to do their homework and research.
But again, it's very subjective. Even with, for example, we were discussing off the air about maybe we're just being too sensitive. Because technically, if you want to trash talk someone, and you see him, of course, he's black, you wouldn't call him you white something. Because technically, obviously. Right? So maybe it's just a bit we're too sensitive I had my own share when I was in Africa for a few months. I was called white. I was, yo, white boy. I wasn't really paying attention because I knew I wasn't white. But then it was, yo, white boy. It's like, me? What? And then sometimes a certain African actually approached me. It was in Nigeria, I think. Approached me, really shouted at me, yo, Chinaman, your shoes no good. So I wasn't even selling shoes. But maybe because I was Asian.
Yeah.
They're stereotyping.
Yeah. So again, it's really more of because we're a bit sensitive. Because for me, if I were, I should have charged them for discrimination already. But obviously, I wouldn't dare because I might be disappear. I might disappear.
It's interesting that you're bringing that up, no? Na in Africa, it's like that. I mean, for the benefit of us, perhaps who haven't been there. But because but this was long ago.
I'm not saying all Africa is like that.
Of course.
There is.
Of course. I was in the States, and this is the States, and it's surprising because someone yelled at me from across the room. This was in a food court. Hey, Chinese boy. So I was looking around. This was the States, so of course there'd be more Chinese boys than myself in the place. But apparently it was me. Interestingly, the person who was calling me out was Pinay. So I was like, okay. But I mean, it's just sometimes we're sensitive, but sometimes those also who are on the giving end also forget that sometimes they receive it. I mean, no offense meant, but Africans, of course, are complain a lot, and that's fine because we do know that everyone, sort of gets on the receiving end every so often. But it's weird when they're the ones dishing it out. Same thing with my own experience.
Roy, when you're here, so do you receive any treatment like that from the Filipinos?
To a certain degree, I do get treated different just because I'm white. The assumption, the stereotype is that they'll be richer, they'll be a certain way. They're always surprised that I can speak some Tagalog. That knowing the language particularly helps integrating, which is useful. But the Philippines particularly are very... The people will say it directly as it is in that sense. If someone's black, they'll call them black. If someone's white, they'll call them white. If someone's whatever color it is, whereas in England it's, as you say, it's a bit more sensitive. Like just to call someone black, despite them obviously being black, is a different kind of issue. What we got to remember in some sense is that's coming from a whole load of racism. Previously, the previous generation, let's say, racism was far more rampant. Just to have a black player on the national team was such a huge deal, and they got such a massive amount of stick for that. And a lot of the fans are coming from that, remembering that, and in some places it still exists, Croatia, the Serbs, Yugoslavs, there is a whole lot of pride in that area particularly, which is why they were fined for that one, because racism really does exist there. But in terms of defining what racism is and isn't, if someone's black, to call them black isn't racist. It's describing a characteristic about that. To say that they are bad because they are black, or to defame them, or to say that they're different just because of that, that's where the racism begins. And perhaps in this case, the offending word wasn't black, the offending word was the other word. And that's what really brought him down. And so for me at least, to call someone the colour they clearly are isn't racist. It's if you treat them differently, or if you think of them lesser or higher even, that's a form of racism.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's just to go back to the topic, go back to the John Terry case. I think it's really more of the victim or the recipient of that insult highlighting more on being called black rather than the next.
Yes, which is
the word,
which is more offensive.
Which is more offensive.
You would say,
So again, it's really we sometimes take into account that we stick to that color thing, or because we're Asian too much that we forget why we were even called that.
Although one thing with the Ascals we got to remember is a lot of the racism is like, oh, they're half-breeds, therefore they're this, that, and the other. So that is racism, and the Ascals do get a lot of racism for that within the country. Though I guess that's us for now. So
it's never fair, but I think that racism is such a touchy subject.
Yes.
But Just to quote the famous Avenue Q musical, everyone's a little bit racist.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
So with that, let us know what you think. Tweet us at FTW Sport.